I'm Donna Lynn. My book is From Fear to Love, My Private Journey, talking about a lifetime of alien abduction and experiences which I denied and called dreams for most of my life until I finally came to realize that this was real, this was really happening when I heard from other people. And then my book got published, and now other people are coming to me and telling me it's happening to them too, and so it's just like really amazing to hear this. And I live in Ventura, California, and I've lived in Nova Scotia back in the 1960s when my experiences first began. My dad was a Canadian Air Force pilot, Royal Canadian Air Force pilot and flight instructor, and we left Nova Scotia right about the time that the USOs, undersea, or unidentified submerged objects, were in the news. It's been an ongoing process, and then the aliens began to identify themselves to me, and when I stopped being so scared and screaming and being terrified and calmed down, they introduced themselves to me with names. And
so how long have you been awake in terms of knowing that you were dealing with some sort of...
Well, around the late 1980s, when I saw the book Communion with the cover with the gray alien, that's when it struck me, it shook my reality, like,
A lot of people...
oh, those aren't just dreams.
Wow.
But I still didn't want to face the reality until probably 2001.
Wow.
When
and what type of beings do you believe you're dealing
my
with?
main one is a praying mantis, 7-foot tall praying mantis.
Wow.
Calls himself Crote. He's like my alien guide.
Okay. And are there others that are like doing like worker stuff?
Grays, yeah.
Okay.
He's always accompanied by at least 3 grays who
Is
kind
that
of
right?
come and like do his work. He's the talker. He's like the instructor.
Wow.
But if I need to go somewhere, because I'm semi-paralyzed, they kind of put their little hands on my arm and guide me to where they want me to go. And
Wow. And in general, and we'll get into this, I guess, do you see this as positive, or did it negative, or did it start as negative and move to positive?
started as negative. That's why I call my book From Fear to Love, because it used to be I'd wake up screaming, and the doctor said it was night terrors, and I'd outgrow that, and I never did. I still woke up screaming into my 30s, but it was about the time I accepted they were real, and if they were going to hurt me, they would have hurt me by then. And that's when I finally accepted that this was real, and I stopped screaming and let them talk to me and started listening to what they were saying, and they had only positive messages that they're here to help humanity, and they care about us, and they care about the earth.
Wow. And you and I first met last night, and we talked about something that interests me that interests you, and that's DNA. So can we talk about what should people know about DNA and what's going on here? What's important? What are we missing?
Well, as I was writing the talk to speak at the Ozark Mountain UFO conference here, it came to me that I should just mention that they're interested in me for my DNA, which I felt was kind of bizarre. And then last night at dinner, you mentioned that experiencers have different DNA. And then one of the other ladies at the table mentioned that she had body trauma from denying the experiences for so many decades. Her mind didn't remember the experiences, but her body did. And I said, yes, I have autoimmune disease, and I feel that my body was reacting to all those years of the abductions and the clinical experiments and things that were going on that I wasn't willing to face mentally, that now I am. But now I have this full-blown lupus, autoimmune disease. It's like my body is reacting to all those years of trauma where I denied what was going on. So the aliens, one of them specifically that looks kind of ghost-like, she's kind of like a big gray, she told me she's a geneticist, and she's working with the DNA of Earth. And she looked right at me with those big alien eyes and said, and we want you for your DNA.
Wow.
Which gave me goosebumps, but I really don't have any knowledge beyond that. Why me?
Yeah.
I'm not really different from anybody else.
Wow. Have you been regressed? Did you get some of this stuff through regression, or is it just
No,
coming
it's
back?
all been just remembering dreams. And well, I've done like self-hypnosis, and I've been to meditation classes where they kind of talk you through maybe a past life or something, but nobody's ever been able to regress me to the alien experiences, which I'm interested in. I'd like to maybe do that.
Wow. And any messages are they giving you you know, they're mentioning this overall message, but is there any specific stuff? Have you been able to ask questions or?
I ask a lot of questions, but they don't always answer.
Oh, is that right?
Or they'll say it is not yet for you to know, it is not time for you to know. But they have assured me that we can't have World War III. You know, everybody's afraid of nuclear war right now. And they said that they can't allow that. They can't allow humans to destroy the earth. So that's put me at ease, at least about that. That
Wow.
they have told me, I'm going to talk about this, that they do have technology that they're willing to offer us, where they could clean the plastics out of the ocean. They could maybe give us free energy, things like that. But they can't do it for us. Humans have to do the work, but they can seed the ideas into the mass consciousness. But people like me are the ones who interact with them, and we don't usually have a scientific type mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an engineer, so they could download blueprints for me to do a free energy machine, and I wouldn't get it. So they need people who are more scientists, engineers, more the left brain people, to be open to the idea that they might get a thought form or a blueprint from a alien and work with it, and they're willing to give us technology to help make life better.
And other than the DNA, do you think you have a mission, or what do you think your role is? Why are they dealing with you other than the DNA? Have they got something for you to do, or do you sense a mission?
Mostly this is it, just pretty much telling people, if it happened to me, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got through the fear. If you wake up in the night and there's aliens in your bedroom, try not to scream, try not to panic. They're benevolent, and they're here for a reason, and it's okay to go with it and ask them questions, and it's okay to talk to other people, because for 50 years I held it in, thinking people would think I was crazy. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm having so many people come up to me or write to me, and almost always the first thing they say is, please don't think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
So I figured out everybody's walking around thinking they're a little bit crazy, but we're all experiencing weirdness in our life, and if we all talked about it, I think we could learn a lot more from each other.
Have they encouraged you to talk about it, or have they? Because sometimes people won't, and they'll actually warn you that you have to come out. So they.
Well, a little bit. Like last year at the Ozark Mountain Transformation Conference, my publisher sent me an invitation to speak, and I was like, no, I'm an introvert, I'm a writer, I just sit in my bedroom and type, and they kind of implied, well, it's part of your book contract, it's an invitation, but it's you kind of have to do this. So I was terrified to speak in front of a crowd, but once I did it, and it was well received, and now I get internet emails and things from people in Germany and people in Australia that are saying, yeah, me too, and so that's been so rewarding. And so now I'm not so afraid to speak out about it. I really haven't had any negative backlash at all, and that's what I was expecting.
That's what people, and people usually don't. People sort of assume that that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think today they may ignore you or not react, but they're generally more accepting. Mm-hmm. Are you? Let me ask you about the book. I mean, was it easy? Was it easy to write? Did it come to you, or? And so how did you set it up, like in terms of the experience, how it started? And that's
it kind of came to me because I've always been a writer. I always write things down.
Okay.
When I was younger and these crazy experiences were happening, and I was in my 20s and trying to raise a family, and my husband thought I was nuts from waking up screaming, I would just keep a journal by the bed and write things down to kind of get it out of my head so that then I could go on and live a normal life. So I kept those through the years, notes and papers and sketches I'd drawn and everything. And then when I felt time to write a book, I just kind of gathered everything together, and they kind of just fell into place. I just had to write a few paragraphs in between. And I did it because the aliens don't really work in linear time. They experience time different than us. I did it kind of circular, and that is the one criticism I've had of my books, that it's hard to follow, because I group it by experiences. Mm-hmm. Each chapter is kind of, from fear to love. I start with the fear and the things that they did that scared me, and I end it with the love, the messages they've given me of love and acceptance.
Okay, so that's an interesting concept. So what is the message, the love message? How do they express it to you, or what?
That we need to just love each other, love the earth, treat others as you would be treated, just kind of basic. And they're not here as, like they have come in the past. Like I've said, why don't you materialize in my living room and I can call the media, They're not going to do that. They have done it in the past in ancient civilizations, and then they were treated as gods.
Yeah.
They don't want to be seen as gods. They want to be on an equal level with us as like our brothers and sisters. So that's why they kind of stay in the shadows and just talk to us this other way. And the message is that they want to help us. They love the earth. They're caretakers of the earth. That's the big message. And so are humans. So they want to work with us as caretakers of the earth to make things better. And that we don't have to get rid of our technology. I thought we'd have to go back to living like Stone Age in order to heal the earth. But they said, no, 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 you can have high technology and still be in harmony with nature.
Wow. Tell me a little bit about the physical aspect of it. You talked about little marks and stuff, and do you think they're leaving that kind of stuff on you to sort of verify this isn't a dream? Or
I think so, because it's so strange when you live in a house with other people and the abductions happen. And dogs. It's like, well, why don't my dogs bark? Why didn't it wake up anybody else in the house? And it was confusing as to, do they actually take this physical body, or do they leave my body in the bed and just take my soul?
Yeah.
And it's very confusing to know which is which. Maybe they paralyze everybody else in the house, and then they do take my whole body, because sometimes I would wake up with a nosebleed, or like marks on my arm where a little gray tree frog fingers had guided me down a hallway. So I think part of the bruises and the nosebleeds and the marks, sometimes triangular marks, are for verification. So when I wake up and think, wow, that was a crazy dream, and then I look and I have a triangular shape on my arm, it's like, oh, that was more than a dream.
Are the experiences still going on?
Yeah, but not as much. I miss them. It's like, now that I wrote my book and now that I'm out there talking, they've moved on and they're working with other people, and it's like, come back.
Waking up somebody else.
They still, like when I was invited to speak at this, I didn't know what to say, and so I put a journal by my bed with a pen, and I said, send me, messages, and they did. But it's not as direct contact. It's more like I'll be doing dishes and the thoughts will come into my mind. So it's not nearly as much of a direct contact as it used to be.
Wow. And are the contacts changing? Is it like going from, was there physical stuff which goes, like some people describe it, goes from physical to the sort of the spiritual, philosophical stuff? That you have less physical experiences and more sort of message,
mental or spiritual. And when I was younger, I guess in that fertile period is when, I was on the exam tables and they probably harvested eggs and things like that. And now that I'm older,
wow,
they don't do that anymore, so it's more the spiritual message.
Okay, and last question. Let's go to the future. Are you planning another book, or are you just going to do more talking, or have you got more to say?
I feel like I have more to say, but that book was, 45 years in the making, because I started taking notes in the 70s and 80s, so I'm not sure. But if they start sending me, they made sure, they woke me up at 3 a.m. every morning with these insistent messages in my head, and until I wrote them down, they wouldn't let me go back to sleep.
Is that right?
So, and then as soon as I wrote them down, I could go back to sleep, and sometimes I'd wake up and not even remember what I had written until I reread it. Other times I would remember. So I guess if they want me to do another book, they'll wake me up at 3 a.m. and let me know.
Wow. So, well, this will be the last question. If you found it, if you had to do it again, would you do it again?
I've asked myself that, because especially with this physical trauma now, I'm dealing with this autoimmune disease, which is a miserable thing to live with. There's no cure, there's no treatment, and I'm pretty sure it's connected, it's somehow related. And, I've been divorced twice because it's made me, hard to trust people, and a little jumpy and a little bit of a loner. And there's been a lot of trauma, but what they've shown me, the spiritual world, I'm not afraid of death. I obviously exist outside of this body, and there's a whole universe out there of space brothers and sisters, and so I think I would do it again. I think it was this lifetime's mission or choice, I guess. Not an easy one, but I think it's definitely worth it.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing.